Hey everybody, Joe Marino here with Talk About It Tuesday with Joe. Um, Today I am going to be talking about depression and my experience with depression personally, and maybe some general things that one with depression might feel, and some information or how I feel about depression. I wanted to first say that some of this could be triggering. I'm not sure where I'm going to go. I mean, I have little checkpoints on a list on my wall that I want to make sure I hit, but I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to take it because this brain is a train and I don't know where the tracks are. It just goes. So I hope that nothing's triggering for you, but my depression has been an issue my whole life, it feels. So there might be, because there's probably some sad stuff, because depression isn't happy. With that out of the way, I wanted to touch base on why I decided this week to talk about my depression. Um, Kyle was here recently, and it was amazing, and I love him, and it was great to see him, and we had a really great time. And then he left because we're in a long distance relationship, and I was kind of bummed. And then my vacation ended, and I was really bummed. Um, and the winter is really hard for me. I talked about it a little in Holiday Blues, but this time of year is just really tough for me. And I am on two different antidepressants right now, and I'm still depressed. So, can't imagine what life would be without those. But this morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. so that I would work out, and I did not. I laid in bed until 7:30 a.m. when I needed to take a shower. So, I woke up expressly early to work out because I need to get started again because I was doing great and then I just stopped and I put on 12 pounds, which is neither here nor there, but I'm short. So when I put on 12 pounds, it goes to usually the mid area. And the mid area is where jeans close and pants close. And I have to be at Matrix Destination in less than 2 weeks. And I need my clothes to fit. I need the buttons to button. Like at this point, I'm all right with even like some muffin top shit happening. I just want to make sure the clothes I have fit. So I'm a little depressed about that too. Um, but this morning I woke up and I laid there, and then my kitties, my precious babies, Athena and Artemis, decided to lay down by my feet, one on one side, one on the other. And they were so cute, and I was so sad. And I pulled my feet out, and I turned around, and I laid my head in between them, laying on Artemis, who's the little baby gray. She's tiny. And like a little bit on Athena, and I had my arms around them. And Artemis purrs all the time. The second you give her attention or talk to her, if she's happy, she purrs. And she'll roll around, and she's so cute. She's like, "Oh my god, love me. I'm adorable. Look what I'm doing. Pay attention." It's adorable. It's super cute. I'm sure I've posted a video on the cat's Instagram of her doing it. I think she was in a mannequin box at the time. But she just started purring, and I'm just laying there, and I'm just crying. Crying on my cats because I was depressed, and one of the ways depression manifests for me is I don't want to move. I don't want to get up. I don't want to work. I don't want to shower. I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay there like a fucking dead lump on a log, and I can't do anything. Like, it's very, very hard to motivate and move when I'm in that state, and I was in it. So I laid there for 2 hours with the cats. I only cried on them for like 10 minutes because they wouldn't tolerate 2 hours of crying. But I definitely just held them and was like, I don't want to work on my tear stained comforter. And then I got up and I showered and I went to work. And I had a great day. Today was awesome. My classes were fantastic. I had so much fun. And that's the thing with depression. you can still have fun. You can still have really happy, wonderful times in a 24-hour period and still be depressed. Uh, and that's how my depression is. So if you've met me or you know me, you would probably be surprised to find out that I have really severe clinical depression a lot of the time, because I tend to come off super happy because I love interacting with people and I love people for the most part. I also hate people. It's like this really weird dynamic, because I hate humanity most of the time, but I love people, and that tends to be the same thing. But I really, really don't come across as what people envision a depressed person to come across as. And most people that are depressed don't. So, for instance, Robin Williams, um, one of the happiest seeming guys, so full of life, so joyful, always trying to make somebody laugh. Like, a lot of us that struggle with depression have outgoing personalities. We care about people. We especially go above and beyond because we don't want other people to feel the way we do. I never, ever want other people to go through what I go through on a daily basis with my depression and anxiety and ADHD and PTSD. Like, there's so much happening in my brain all at the same time, and it's really hard to function. And when you're neurodivergent, which is when your brain doesn't work the same way as somebody who is neurotypical, it's hard because society expects you to function like you're neurotypical, and you're not. Like, my brain is literally wired differently. It functions differently than somebody who is neurotypical. So it's it can be really frustrating and depressing on its own, which then makes the depression worse. And it's just this cycle sometimes. But the reason why I decided again today to talk about depression is because I woke up fucking depressed. I was a mess. And every day the countdown gets closer to destination, and every day I haven't worked out. I have been trying to eat better, so I'm at least curbing something, but it's rough, y'all. It is ragged. So that's why we're talking about depression today. I wanted to talk about my symptoms personally, because there are such a wide range of symptoms for people, and I don't like to speak for others. So hopefully you've noticed that by now, but I'm going to try for this, and I usually try, and I hope I continue to try in the future, to put things from my perspective and not speak in general terms for everybody, because we all experience things a little differently. We all taste things differently. I'm convinced that we all see colors completely differently, but we're just taught that blue is blue. So whatever you see is blue, that's blue to you. But what you see as blue, I might see as green. Like, visual, I don't know. I don't know why I'm rambling about that. But anyway, we all see things differently. We all touch and taste and smell. Our senses are different. Our experiences are different, and I don't want to speak for anybody else. That was a weird ramble. Sorry, guys, but I got it out. Um, that's the ADHD. So my symptoms, personally, have been there for a really long time. A huge one of them is exhaustion and fatigue. So, which ties in, I also have Lyme disease, so the two really pair well together. But I get really tired and really unmotivated. It's really hard for me to want to do things, or if I want to do things, because I can really want to do them. Like, I just wanna. I can't make myself do it. And it's totally disturbing when you're in that mindset, because you're like, just do it. Why don't you just do it? Because you can't. It's too hard. Why is it so hard? It's so simple. But I can't. And I want to. And I wish I could. But I can't. And it's so frustrating and then depressing, because why can't you just fucking do it? But for me, it involves a lot of sleep, a lot of being tired, a lot of lack of motivation to do things, to do basic functions, to clean, to bathe. I do it because I touch people and I'm around people all the time. So I make myself shower because ain't nobody else need to be screwed over because of my depression. Nobody wants a stinky person. For me, depression also isn't just feeling sad all the time necessarily. Like, again, I have those happy moments throughout many of my days, and I can laugh and I can feel joy and I think I'm funny and I think other people are funny. And then back into depression, because it's not that I'm not depressed anymore. It's just that I came up to the surface and had a really good moment and then back down. For me, it's kind of constantly there. It's this like dark cloud that kind of just kind of drifts behind me. I feel like Eeyore a lot inside, um, but I don't project Eeyore because I don't want people to look at me that way. I also, it's not my true personality. I'm not just like, I just feel that way. And the other part about depression that sucks is like when you're depressed and you've been dealing with depression for almost your whole life or your entire life, you don't necessarily know who your personality really is, like who you truly are, because you're either depressed and like, or you're depressed and you're showing off or showing up so that people aren't concerned or that people aren't burdened by you, because as a depressed person you truly feel like a burden on the rest of humanity and society and your friends and your family and everybody else. You're just like, oh god, you'd be better off without me. I'm a lot of work, I'm a lot to deal with, and I need a lot of help that you can't give me. So you try to behave as if, or I try to behave as if I'm staying above the surface and I'm doing great all the time. And again, I have moments almost every day that are fantastic and I am feeling good. The second I start teaching a class, I'm like, bingo, baby. I love it. I'm living my best life, and it's wonderful. And then sometimes I get in my car and I cry after because I'm just like back into depression because that moment is over. And it's a really weird dynamic, but I do my best. Um, I those are typically my symptoms. I don't have, a ton. Thank God for me, suicidal thoughts and tendencies are not really an issue anymore, but when I was younger, they absolutely were. My history with depression is a deep and tangled web. It started really for me when I was young. My childhood was kind of weird and kind of messy, and we all did our best, and it was still fucked up. And many, many people have weird, fucked up childhoods because life is not easy for most people. But I was super sensitive and still am, and I really care about people and I really care about what people think. But my childhood was hard a lot for me. Not my really young childhood. There were definitely moments, and things and signs of things, but I was oblivious. I was a really happy kid for most of it, until some things happened to me. And until a huge part of my depression getting deeper was moving. So we lived in Massachusetts when I was really young, and then we moved when I was in fifth grade to New Hampshire, to a really small town compared to the city that I grew up in. And I also lived next door to my cousins, so it was like having siblings because I'm an only child, and I didn't have step siblings until I was older that I actually liked. I moved away from all my friends, everything I knew, the house that I grew up in or felt like, was my whole life. My cousins living next door, to a really small town in New Hampshire with a bigger house. It was a nice house, and we had a pool, which was nice. But it was really, really hard moving at that age to a place where nobody knew me, where I had no friends. I was new. School had already started. And then in small towns, like the one I grew up in, or I mean, grew up from when I moved there. Uh, People grew up together. They've known each other their entire lives. So for me to move in and start on like the third or fourth day of school was really weird because everybody had already established friends. They had already established friends probably 5 years ago, since first grade. And then in came the new kid. And it was rough. My first day of school was terrible. Um, Thank God for Mrs. LaVirtue. May she rest in peace. She was like my saving grace for those 2 years, fifth and sixth grade. But she, was my teacher. And I came in, and people were not kind. Um, Nobody wanted to talk to me or sit with me. And then the student who ended up being my best friend in for like most of middle school and then most of high school, and we're still friends to this day. She and I got paired up on a little project, and she was using a mechanical pencil, and the lead was like really far out because when you're in fifth grade, you think it's amazing and cool to like and try to write with that. And it snapped, and because Karma loves me, it ricocheted into my eye, and I had this giant chunk of pencil lead in my eye, and I had to go to the nurse's office to get it out. And the second I walked out of the classroom, everybody cheered and clapped. It was awful. So that was my first day experience, and it didn't really get better from there. People made fun of how I ate. People made fun of me constantly. I was really bullied. I felt like shit. I tried to commit suicide when I was like 11 or 12. Didn't work because I'm still here, thank goodness. But it was really, really hard when you're bullied and you feel like everybody hates you because they do. It's a really, really tough existence, especially at that age. And at home, my mom worked a lot. She worked nights. Her boyfriend at the time started kind of nosediving, and it was a really hard situation because financially there wasn't, much she could do at that point. She couldn't just like boot him. And she also didn't see a lot of it because he hid a lot from her and was only really mean to me when she was gone. So she'd leave and walk out the door, and he'd literally, like Jekyll and Hyde, turn around and say nasty things to me. There was one time that I don't know if he was fucked up on drugs or if he was just really drunk, but he started freaking out on me and my couple friends that lived on my street that were in the backyard with me. And there were sticks because a storm happened, so sticks fell out of trees, and he screamed at me about the sticks being in the yard and that I was like useless kid and how could I make such a mess of the yard and put all the sticks in the yard. And then when I was like, dude, there was a storm, they fell out of the trees, he picked up a giant citronella candle that was in a ceramic bowl, like a beautiful, like had suns on it and everything. It was this really beautiful, like molded ceramic bowl, and threw it off the deck at me. And the deck was high, so it came crashing down. It didn't hit me, it shattered, and then I ran. And then I contacted the police because I was terrified. And then they came and told me that he could beat my ass if he wanted to. So, thanks. So that was part of my childhood. I had the scariest, most wicked stepmother for a while. And I might go into those kind of details at another date in another podcast, but that really fucked me up. And between the two, so not feeling safe at home, not feeling safe at school, not feeling safe at my dad's, those are three. So between the three. But all of that together just really nosedived me. And I tried everything I could to escape from reality at that age. So I would avoid the house and I would go sit in the woods on a big rock behind the house, probably where I got Lyme disease. I would play video games and escape into video games. That has and probably will always be one of my favorite things to just disappear into because I can turn my brain off when I'm playing video games. I don't think about my life. I don't think about me. I don't think about the things that I'm anxious about or depressed about. I can just focus on the story that's happening. So I like to play role playing games because there's a lot of storyline that distract me. I escape into books. So I read a lot back then, and I still try to. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but it was a really tough time. And because of all those things coming together, and because of other things when I was young, I just went into this deep, awful depression. And then Lyme disease definitely, again, did not help. So I slept constantly. I didn't want to go to school because who the fuck would? And I hated everything. Um, and once that develops, once your brain is wired that way, and I'm sure it already was, and it just got really pushed further, you can't, it's not easy to come back. And I didn't have really help to come out of it or come back. So for years, from 11 until I was 14 and a freshman in high school, I suffered and suffered and suffered. And I had two, maybe three friends that were really good friends. And then I just kind of ambled on through and tried to keep my head down. I missed so many days of school every year. A lot of that attributed to, again, the Lyme disease later, but it was also because I didn't want to go because I hated it and I felt awful and I was depressed because everybody was mean to me. And why would I want to go somewhere where everybody hates me? I left or didn't go, or I would sleep in and try not to go and try to just skip school and try to be somewhere else because it was awful. And then in high school, I hit the point where I really started attempting suicide a few times. And the reason why, or what I remember the reasons being, were that, you know, A, my life was, to me, awful and hard and terrible most of the time. There were definitely happy moments, but it was really, really tough. And then I also felt like I had no escape because every aspect of my life was really difficult. There was nowhere that was like a haven or a safe place for me. And then when you're younger, or at least for my generation, people always said, these are the best days of your life when you're in high school. These are the best days of your life. These are going to be the best days of your life. And when you're fucking miserable and everybody hates you and everybody's mean to you except for very few people, and you're picked on and people punch lockers when you walk by and threaten your safety, and you're thinking these are the best days of my life, it's only gonna go downhill from here. It does not set you up for success or positive thinking. So I was like, oh no, if it's only getting worse, I don't think I can deal. So I didn't think I could deal. And I also felt like a huge burden. I felt like I was putting my mom through hell because because there were so many times where I was just like, I just want to fucking die. I want to die. But if I do, it's going to kill her. So I would call her work and tell her, and she'd have to leave because I was like, I'm going to do something. Like, I can't, something's going to happen. My poor first boyfriend went through hell because we were dating at that point when I was 14, and it was a nightmare for him because I was a nightmare, because I was a mess. Nobody wants to get that call that their boyfriend's going to kill themselves, or that they're in a deep downward spiral or anything like that. I eventually broke up with him because I really felt like he did not deserve any of the shit that I was putting him through because I couldn't handle what I was going through. So that was really tough. Uh, Backstory on having a boyfriend at 14. I came out to a friend or two when I was in 8th grade, and they told everybody. So then I was just out. I didn't really come out by choice, but I stayed out because I wasn't going to lie and say that I wasn't once I actually told people I was. So I was outed in eighth grade. That was really tough because they told the person that I had a crush on that I had a crush on him, and that freaked him out and grossed him out, which an eighth grade boy from the woods of New Hampshire, of course it would. So it was really, really hard because if they didn't already pick on me enough and call me fag and call me gay, now they knew it was true. So in high school, I was the only out boy at the time. Um, there were definitely people who were definitely gay, but they were not out. I knew, they knew, just didn't. And we didn't, they weren't like, oh, I know. Like, they didn't come out to me either. I just knew. I was the only one that was really out, except for Jason, my boyfriend. He was a senior, I was a freshman. He was a great guy. We had a pretty good relationship, except for all the shit that I put him through. Thank God for him, but also so sorry, Jay. Still. So in high school, before I started dating Jay, I was hospitalized for suicide attempts because I had made so many. I think it was before anyway. It could have been after. It continued. It was a rough time. But I was hospitalized and I was brought to a treatment center in Lowell, and I was there for 6 days. And they misdiagnosed me with lots of things, and they put me on lots of medications I shouldn't have been on, and then I went off the rails on those, which was great. So that added to the depression and made everything worse too. So I was basically a shit show. Not wanting to go to school, not waking up, not dealing with things, not having a way to deal with things, not, school counselors are not equipped to deal with the chaos that was me and everybody else in the school that they had to deal with. Uh, so it was really, really rough. I had some amazing teachers that helped me get through and survive. Thank God for them. But I went through a lot. So at the end of freshman year, when I finally started making some friends, and I ran for student council and I got it, and I was like, yes, I'm finally doing something here. Things are looking up. We moved again. And we downsized and we moved to a small condo in another small town in New Hampshire where I got to be the new kid again, the new gay kid, and the only one. And it was a smaller school. How could that happen? Who knows? But it did. So I went from a small school to a really small school in a rival town because for whatever reason they were rivals. I don't even know why. Probably some sports shit that I don't know about because I don't know anything about sports. I know some. I know more than some of my friends, but I didn't pay attention in high school. Not at all. So I moved there and it got worse. I definitely had a few more friends right off the bat, which was great. And I still got to see my best friends from the previous town, but it was, whoo, Lord, it was tough. Um, I was definitely out and just off the rails gay back then. And I still am. I am who I am. But I was at this point where I was like, I ain't taking this shit. I am living my life and being myself. Back to moving. Moved. Still was with the boyfriend. Got to see some of my friends from the old town. Made a few friends in the new town that first year. Um, we were definitely more of the outcasts, but I like that anyway because the weird ones are always the best. So, and I'm still friends with a decent amount of them. My close friends from high school, I still consider friends and I still really care about, which is good. But everybody else, again, hated me. I was very gay, very out. First day of school, I walked in with a black t-shirt that said, "My mom says I'm special," and special was in rainbow. And I was like, yes. I wore eyeliner. I would wear makeup. I would go to school in skirts. I wore platform boots. I was super gender fluid before knowing what gender fluid was. It wasn't something that we talked about like we do today. I'm sure I would have identified as they back then, and I should now because I'm not in a box. But at that point, I was very, very feminine and in touch with that and okay with it and expressive of it. I went to prom my senior year in a dress. Um, I got a lot of flack and a lot of backlash because it was not accepted. It wasn't socially accepted, really. And then it really wasn't accepted in that small town kind of mentality and atmosphere. So there were many people that hated me. I was again bullied. People would punch lockers. This one kid hated my guts and wanted me dead for years because I said he had pretty eyes. Like, that's it. Just, they were pretty. They were. They're beautiful blue. And that was reason for me to die. So he got suspended multiple times because of his actions towards me or around me. People tried to run me over if I was walking to school or like swiped at me like they were going to, and I'd have to jump into bushes. Uh, People made a bomb threat under my name. So they created a fake email address on Yahoo, which was literally just my name, and then sent a bomb threat to the school. And then I had to go get talked to and interviewed by the principal and the police and all kinds of crazy shit. It was hard and it was rough, and it didn't let up. And again, I had really great teachers that helped me get through, and I had friends that helped me get through. But it was some of the hardest times of my life. So high school is not the best time of your life if it isn't. If high school sucked for you, or if you're in it now and it sucks ass, you will have better times. It is not the pinnacle. It's not, that's not how society works anymore, and it is not the be all end all. You're not like the quarterback and the homecoming queen and that's your crowning achievement because now you're just whatever, working your life away and dying. Like, there are better things to come, thank God. But because of all those things and everything I went through, I was severely depressed. I had an awesome therapist too that I need to acknowledge, because after the hospital and all that shit and being misdiagnosed and put on the wrong things, at least I had a really great therapist that figured out what motivated me and how to help me work on myself and work through some of my issues. And he's probably one of the few reasons I'm still alive today, because as much as my friends and my teachers supported me, he made me work because I mean that's his job. That's what therapists do, is they help you learn to cope and get through things, and he did. And so thank you forever, because I probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. um, and then the guilt and thought of what it would do to the people around me, um, is probably one of the only reasons that I was here before him. Because again, I care deeply about people. So even though I wanted to not be here anymore because I thought it would be the way better, like nothing could be worse for me in those times in my mind. Like, it, there literally could not be a lower low, and if there was, I did not want to deal with it. Like, if again, if that was the best it was gonna get, peace out, give me the check, I'm leaving. um, but then I thought about, my mom and my grandmothers and my aunts and people that loved me, and I just couldn't bear to do it to them. So that's why I reached out and actually spoke out about it instead of just doing it. And thank God I did, because I'm still here. But it was rough. Depression was really, really rough for me, and it was caused by a lot of things, but then it stayed. Because even after dealing with those things, it didn't go away. So I still deal with the pain and the sadness and the depression and the numbness that comes with it. So a lot of it for me comes in the form of apathy as well. So I want to do something and I kind of care, but I don't care enough. or I care about somebody and I logically know I care about them, but I don't feel it. Like my brain is not releasing any of those chemicals, any dopamine, anything like that, and I just don't know. I can't feel it. I logically know, but I can't feel it. And when you have no feelings or very few, it is a really surreal, weird place to live. And I lived there for a few years and it was awful for me because I'm so used to feeling. So used to feeling. So it was really, really rough because I felt everything so hard and so much at that point in my life before that. Um, and then somewhere in my 20s, it just was like flatline for a while. Um, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is how depression interacts with anxiety. I get depressed because I'm anxious and because my anxiety causes me to not do things or to freak out about things that shouldn't be freaked out about and to nag at people or come at people or poke or reach out because I feel like they might be dead, or if they don't respond something bad happened, or if they don't respond they're mad at me, or I did something wrong because they're in a bad mood, so I did something, I'm the reason, I'm the cause. And it's not egocentric. It's not that I think I'm amazing and I'm the reason everything's happening. It's this thing where like you feel so shitty about yourself that obviously you're the reason why they don't feel good or they are not happy or their day is bad. Like it sucks. So that has caused me to piss people off and push people away and all kinds of things, or they're like, you crazy bye, which makes you more anxious, or me more anxious. I'm trying to own this. But it makes me more anxious. And then the anxiety makes me more depressed because, again, I do all these things and those consequences make me depressed and feel terrible. So those two really drive each other and make me cuckoo. Um, it's really hard sometimes to deal with both. And some medications deal with both really well, and then some target one or the other. So, mental illness in general, not even just depression, but when you're mentally ill, when you have these things, and mental illnesses are illnesses, it's not something made up, it's not just a state. Everybody gets sad, not everybody has depression. They're two different things. It's not always being sad. You can be really numb and then 12 hours later, or really sad, and then 12 hours later you're having a great time because you're with a friend and you're laughing, and then when you're not with your friend anymore, or when you're alone, you're really sad again. It's not just sadness, it's not being able to get out of bed and not being able to do anything even though yesterday you were totally fine, and it was a great day, and now you're like and you can't do anything about it. I tend to be an all or nothing type of person because of my depression and anxiety and everything else. So I'm either 100% in and I want everything and I want to give it to you, or I want it for myself and I'm going for it, or it's like, done. I don't care. It's not happening. Like, I can't. There's no happy medium, which is hard because life is not black and white. There is a lot of gray zone in there, and it can be really, really difficult to navigate through that. Again, mental illness is an illness. It's something different in your brain. Your chemicals don't work the same way as somebody else, or my neurotransmitters don't fire off the same way as other people's, or the neural connections in my emotional centers are not the same or as strong or as many. Or I don't produce enough serotonin or dopamine. Like, there could be so many different things. But it's not the same as everybody else. And it doesn't mean that just because you can't see it or it's invisible, that it doesn't exist. So it's really hard as somebody with mental illness to live with mental illness because people don't talk about it enough, which is why Talk About It Tuesday exists. And when people do talk about it, one of the major responses we get as people with mental illness, and I am going to speak for everybody here because I know that we all kind of go through this, is when you're anxious, oh, just calm down. Cool, Mary. I never thought of that. I wish I thought to just calm down when I was having a panic attack. Oh my god. Now my life is fixed. It's so much better. Thank you. Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just calm down. When you're in an obsessive cycle, because that's where you're at, because of whatever mental illness you've got, and you're stuck in that loop, somebody being like, well, just stop thinking about it does not stop you from thinking about it. Like, if I could, I fucking would, but thank you so much. If you have depression and somebody's like, well, just be happy, try smiling. Smiling releases dopamine and it'll make you happier. You, because that's not how it works. If smiling would make me better, I'd be fucking better because I smile all day. Because A, there are moments where I'm happy, and B, I smile so you don't know how fucking sad I am. So, thank you, but this does not make it better. But thanks. Um, it's not something you can just control. It's not something I can just put out of my mind or put away or stop being. If I could stop being it, I would. And so, as somebody with mental illness, as somebody with depression and anxiety and everything, please, if you don't have it, thank you for watching and listening, but please stop telling us to get over it or that it's not that bad or that things could be worse or to think about something else or blah blah blah. I understand that you're just trying to help, or sometimes you're just sick of fucking hearing it or don't understand it, so you're just like, well, this is what I do. But it doesn't work that way for us, and it's really disheartening to be told that, because if we could, we fucking would. Some things that can be helpful when you're talking to me is, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope it gets better soon. Is there anything I can do? Do you need space? Do you want me to just sit with you? Because sometimes when I'm really sad, I just need somebody to fucking be with me, but don't talk. Or if I talk, don't respond. You can just be a sounding board. You can just listen. I don't always need solutions. And I am going to call myself out because I am typically the person that will offer 6 billion solutions and try to fix everybody's problems, which can be frustrating when you don't want that. You just need somebody to hear you. So sorry to anybody I do that to. Let me know. I'll try better. But it's valid. Having a mental illness is valid. Just because it's not a broken leg and it's not in a cast does not mean that it doesn't exist, that it's not real, that it doesn't affect my daily life and my work life and everything. It affects my entire being all the time. And our society really drives me crazy because in our society, we expect people who are neurodivergent, who have mental illness, who have issues that they can't just fix and whose brains don't work from A to B. We expect people in those circumstances to still function like everybody else and still do the same things as everybody else and carry the same load as everybody else in the same way. And it's not possible, and it's really difficult. And it's something that I've had to deal with my entire life, and I will always have to deal with because that's how we function right now. And I don't see it changing in the foreseeable future, but it's really hard. So, from me to everyone who does not deal with it too, it's hard. Like, some days, the biggest achievement is getting out of bed and waking up. And it's really hard to be that way and to be like, I fucking get up. Or like taking a shower. Some days my biggest achievement is taking a shower. Sometimes I'm so depressed I can't even make a sandwich. I just eat the turkey and the cheese because it's better than not eating it all. Because sometimes with depression, you don't eat because you just don't have the fucking motivation to get up and eat. And then the rest of it, you eat everything because you're trying to fill the giant hole in your heart. So it can be really, really tough. And there's nothing in place and there's no systems in place in reality to make it better. And self-care is not just yoga. And there's not a lot we can do within a normal average work week and work schedule and life schedule that everybody does, because we all are on this fucking hamster wheel all the time. And that's not just in my career in what I do, it's as a society. Watching our society as Americans and our consumerism and how it's made us all work ridiculous amounts of hours because we need more money, because we need more things, because we need this, or like because the expectation is to do 83 hours worth of work in a 24-hour period. It's not healthy for anybody, but for those of us that are a little different in the mind, it can be really, really challenging. So please be patient with us. Understand that we're doing our damned best. We are trying, even when it looks like we're not, even when we can't do anything. We're trying because we're just trying to stay alive sometimes. Thank you for listening and watching to Talk About a Tuesday with Joe, my video series and podcast. Again, it's a podcast. It is available on iTunes, Spotify, and I think other places where you can listen to podcasts. It's the same exact audio as what you're watching if you're watching the YouTube. But I hope that this episode brought some things to light for you, or if you feel some of these ways, I hope you know that you're not alone. That even though you feel alone in all of these experiences, you're not the only person experiencing them. Somebody else out there is feeling the same wretched feelings you are about themselves, about their lives, and you're not the only one. Nobody's life is perfect, and if it is, please sign me up, adopt me, bring me in, help me. But thank you again for watching and listening. This was my episode about depression. It went on a couple tangents. Hopefully I can edit it and make it awesome. Good night.